Hey guys, Blue here. So I want to go over a little bit in Act 5, Chapter 1. I have gone through all of it now, and there is no doubt that this mission is going to be more difficult for a lot of people than previous missions. First of all, even though we have a lot of the same mods we've had before, some of them have been beefed up. They're stronger. More importantly, the bosses have become stronger. They have higher attack ratings, and more importantly than that, each boss has every corresponding mod from the mission on them, which means that several of these bosses have 4 mods. And that means that there's just more ways for you to get tripped up, especially considering that some of these mods are very powerful. So if you're a very experienced player, if you're a ninja, you'll get through this just fine. But for less experienced players, if you don't have a maxed out team, some of these lanes and bosses are going to be pretty tough. Okay, so it is starting to get harder now in these story missions. So I want to go over the Jetfire, Primal, and Windblade fights in particular because I have gotten some questions about them, and I know that those 3 fights have been giving some people issues. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at the mods here. This is the mod setup on Jetfire. He's on Inflict Shock, Cycle Resist, which means you have to be very careful and time your attacks well because he'll be very tanky, and block proficiency. Now, more important than the mod setup in this fight is Jetfire himself. He is incredibly annoying to fight against because of his parry game, right? He can end up stunning you over and over again on melee attacks, and he can reflect your range shots, which means that you need to play him a little bit differently than a lot of other bots, especially considering that the AI on Jetfire is pretty intelligent. He tends to be smart, and his parry game is very good. So when you're playing against Jetfire, you absolutely do not want to play against him very aggressively. If you just charge in, guns blazing, you want to box him into the corner, sort of brute force him to death, that will not work, and he will end up wiping you out. I guarantee it, because he will be able to stun you over and over and over again, and that will drive you crazy. You have to play Jetfire more patiently, more carefully, and wait for openings, because you have to expect that he's going to be able to parry you. So that means that you might have to wait a little bit. Wait for those openings, because you will get them. When your basic ranged shots land, then you go in for an attack. When you knock him down, you want to time those follow-up attacks very, very well so that he's not stunning you there. Okay? If you do that, you're going to be okay. And he's actually not that hard to fight once you get used to it. But if you just fight him mindlessly and you think that you've got a strong bot and you can just go after him, he's going to wreck you. I mean, he will wreck you within seconds if you don't play him patiently and wait for those openings. Now, in terms of your bot choices, I will say that the Beast Wars squads will be great for not only this mission, but for this whole chapter in general. Purification will be super helpful in Act 5, Chapter 1. So Beast Wars, TC, Grim, Sideswipe, Kickback, you got lots of DOT lanes, Shock in particular. So if you have Purifiers, they'll be useful. Maximus teams, of course, very useful, right? So I used Cheetor in this fight. I used Prowl in this fight. Really, any of the scouts could do well here because, like I said, in this fight against Jetfire, more important than the bot that you're using is how you're fighting against him, okay? You got to play against him carefully, okay? So this is the mod setup for Primal, and I know a lot of people have had trouble with Primal because he's a very tanky bot himself, and he's got some very powerful mods here. He's on Evade Melee that's beefed up, melee damage that's beefed up, 600% melee damage. That means that if he's able to land melee combos on you when the mod is active, he could kill you. He's on a very strong shock block, right? So every time you hit into his block, he's going to deal a very strong stack of shock. And remember, this happens every single time you hit into his block. He's on repair timed and defensive power gain, which means he's gaining 19% roughly of a power bar every second that he's blocking. Okay? So a few things here. When you're fighting against the bots that have 4 mods on them, okay, you want to read the mods before you fight the boss just to remind yourself of them and refresh your memory. But when you start the fight, you don't want to be freaking out trying to overanalyze it and remember every single detail of every mod while at the same time remembering every single detail of the bot that you're fighting. If you do that and you end up focusing on the mods more than the actual fight, you're going to get wrecked. Okay? You can't do that. So, like I said, you want to refresh your memory of what the mods are, but if anything, you just want to play the fight patiently, as you always would in a difficult fight, and play as normally as possible. Okay? Because if you're just hyper-focused on the mods, you will get tripped up. I guarantee you here. Now, remember, in this one, you've got 2 time mods, melee damage and repair time, that are on the same schedule here. 7.5 seconds up, 15 seconds down. The shock block is easy to remember. It's just, if you hit into his block, back off. Okay? Don't keep doing it. Okay? And then defensive power gain, if he's blocking, then just fire off a couple basic range shots to get his attention so he stops blocking and he doesn't get to a special 3 quickly. So yes, these are some very powerful mods, and you may need to do this fight a few times before you get it. But I guarantee it's very doable. So I would say, in terms of bot choices, OGM, if you have Megatron, brilliant for this fight and for this chapter in general, because you have a lot of very powerful mods, lots of great buffs to steal. Megatron will do wonderfully here. Okay? If you have a Maximus squad with OGP, I used OGP here on several lanes. He'll do just fine because a maxed out OGP, he just hits so hard, he's going to be able to overcome Primal's healing and wipe him out. I know not a lot of people use Dinobot, but if you are using Beast Wars, Dino will do very well in this fight. He's a very underrated bot. Ultra Magnus would be another good one, and I have seen more people using UM, which I think is a good thing, because if you are using a squad with UM, right, remember, you're fighting the lane first before you get to Primal, which means that if you have, let's say, a mid to high Sig Ultra Magnus, and you have other teammates that are dead by the time you get to UM, his Sig, that attack boost on his Sig is going to kick in, and you can get that massive boost in attack, which will help. And UM, of course, has really good armor breaks, which are super useful against Primal. You could also use Cheetor to inflict repair block, because Cheetor would not be able to heal from the mod or heal on bleeds when repair block is active. And the Shocky Tech team, if you do like Shockwave, bring him with a few other tech bots, right, and makes him super OP, one of the strongest bots in the game when you're using that Shocky Tech team. He just has these preposterous stacks of shock. So really, an armor breaker or a bot like OGM who can steal buffs, or just any super beefed up, really hard-hitting bot is going to be able to melt Primal. Okay, like I said, you might have to try this a few times if you don't have really maxed out squads, but this is a very doable fight as long as you're not freaking out about the mods and you have an appropriate bot to use against him, okay? I think actually in general, Act 5, Chapter 1, and certainly this fight will be a really good one to practice against if you are less experienced, okay? And so finally, I want to take a look at the Windblade fight. She's on an interesting set of mods. Energon Shield, Evade Melee Timed, Absorb Projectile, which is one of the most annoying mods we have, and Replicate. Now, Replicate is nothing crazy, not difficult to deal with. The other 3 together, though, are frustrating in combination. It's actually a very clever combination of mods. So we all know Energon Shield, right? She's going to be healing if you're attacking her when it's up, and then her resistances go down. But the fact that she's on Evade Melee and Absorb Projectile makes this fight tricky, because it means that she's obviously evasive against melees when the mod is active, and you cannot rely on basic range shots at all, because she will heal on them, and she'll be able to counter you. So the key in this fight is to land melees when Energon Shield goes down. Remember, you can't fire off those basic range shots a lot because she will heal and counter you. But if you can land some big melees, and particularly a special when Energon Shield goes down, she will die quickly. Because the good news here is that with Energon Shield, resistances are down when the shield is down. And in this case, they're down a lot. They're down by 80%. Which means that if you're able to land a few big hits or a special when the shield goes down, she will die. So the Maximus teams are great here. Ironhide, Sunny, OGP. You're getting that bar of power at the start, so you can land a special 1 after a combo when Energon Shield goes down, and you're good to go. Bumblebee would be great here, because he has, shield break that's always useful against Energon shield. Really, any other hard-hitting bot will do well here. But in this fight, it's really less about your bot choices and more about making sure that you're not relying on basic ranged and that you're not getting overly frustrated and trying to attack her a lot when Energon shield is up, because then she'll just heal and heal and heal, right? So when the shield goes down, right, try to land those melees. If you're not able to, if she's evading and all that stuff, then just wait, the shield will go back up, wait until it goes back down again, right? So play it patiently if you have to. If you do that, you will be able to get her down. It really will not be that difficult, okay? So that's the set of fights on this one, guys. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I think it's interesting that they're starting to make it more challenging. So hopefully, with the remainder of the chapters in Act 5 and Act 6, we get some genuinely really difficult fights. I really hope that happens. I know it can be frustrating if you're newer, but believe me, guys, this is really good practice because we just don't have a lot of difficult content. So if this is difficult for you, you got really good training grounds in some of these fights, okay? So I will leave it there for now, guys. I hope all of you are well, and we'll be in touch again soon. Take care.